How's it going, everyone? How are you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I called it in my prediction video, almost to it, kind of to a T, sort of. I did predict the scoreline exactly, and just about that, the fact that the scoreline wouldn't be too flattering for us. It'd be flattering for us rather, and that Leeds would give us a lot of trouble and they would snatch an early goal. So I'm just saying, I'm a little bit of a genius. But getting right into the lineup so we can get into this game. Let's go over the lineups. For Chelsea, they played our usual 4-3-3, a pretty typical lineup from us. Edward Mendy in goal, Ben Chilwell on the left of the defense, Thiago Silva, Kurt Zouma, the center back duo, on the right, Reece James. Our midfield trio was Mason Mount, N'Golo Kante, and of course Kai Havertz. On the left of our attack, we had Timo Werner. Up top, main man Olivier Giroud getting the start after his incredible performance against Sevilla, and put in another very good performance in this game. And on the right, Hakim Ziyech, who is we're still not really clear as to the extent of his injury or the severity of his injury, whether it's going to keep him out for an extended amount of time, whether it's going to only keep him out for a couple games. I personally think it's likely only going to keep him out, well, at the very least, at least for the next game against Krasnodar. He should sit out just as a precaution, even if, you know, it's only like a week before he comes back, or like a couple days. As a precaution, I would say just let him rest, let him get that rest when we go against Krasnodar. But regardless, on the bench for Chelsea, we had Azpilicueta, Kovacic, Jorginho, Rudiger, Kepa, Pulisic, and Tammy Abraham. If you noticed, Callum Hudson-Odoi not on the bench. Big decision there from Lampard. Now for Leeds lineup, they played a 4-4-1-1. They had Messiah in goal, Alioski on the left, Cooper and Cook on the center back duo. On the right, Ayling. On the right of their midfield, Rafinha. They had Dallas and Phillips as the center mids, more like kind of center defensive mids in a way. On the left, they had Harrison, the center attacking mid, Klich, and up top, Bamford. They were very fluid and ever-changing, you know, within each other. They were switching on positions a lot. Like when later on, I believe Alioski came off at left back, Dallas from center mid filled in that position. I envy when you have a team who's able to fill in any position from anywhere. I think that's a really great thing to have as a manager. But to move on to their subs, Iker Casillas, Rodrigo, Llorente, who I thought was injured. I saw reports he was injured, but I guess he was available for this game. Most of them did say that he just wasn't match fit. So I guess, you know, he was able to get there in time. Obviously, Koch had an injury, and so Llorente had to come on, and that was unfortunate for them. But they had Costa, Roberts, Stroke, and Poveda, who made a late appearance off the bench. And on the first half, right away, within the first minute, Thiago Silva put in a great ball to Hakim Ziyech, and he took a shot, forced the corner. It wasn't the cleanest shot from Ziyech. It was a good attempt, don't get me wrong, but he did miss, and it did force a corner where we almost immediately, like Giroud already set the tone for how he was going to approach this game and how we should approach this game. The ball comes in, and he's the first to head the ball. He's above everyone else off the corner, and unfortunately he misses, but regardless, he set the tone for how he was going to play the rest of the game. Our defense, immediately though, after that, were tested. And I wrote this down before they even scored. I said our defense needs to be wary of Leeds passing and their speed of their attack, because the way Leeds came at us was just lightning. They wanted to press us. They were all over. They were sprinting across the field trying to get to us. And ultimately, I think that did cost them towards the end of the game. But initially, it paid off, because in the 4th minute, they get a goal, a beauty of a pass from, I think it was Phillips. It was for sure Phillips on Leeds. A beauty of a through ball from him, so perfectly placed that it's like the defenders can't get to it. Mendy couldn't get to it, and it was just so perfectly placed. It was just up to Bamford to get around Mendy and put it in the empty net. And Leeds like I said, they took an early 1-0 lead. But like I also said, this wasn't going to be like Sheffield, where we immediately respond and we're immediately dominating the game, because it wasn't like that. For the most part, Leeds, for the first 15 minutes or so, were very much in control. To an extent, it was an intense first half. It was very intense, exciting to watch first half. It was really exciting to watch. It was a fun first half, because these two teams are both electric. They're both explosive. They're both, you know, just exciting to watch, and they really went at it in that first half. But in the 9th minute, we had a chance. Werner Wow. So the corner comes in and Giroud heads it onto the right side of the goal. Werner stops it and then tries to hit it again to put it in the back of the net, and somehow he's like inches in front of an open goal, hits it on the crossbar, and it bounces back, and the chance flies by. And I think honestly it was going in off of Giroud's header if Werner had let it go, but that's that striker instinct. The ball comes near you while you're in front of goal, you're gonna react. It's the same as a defender. When a ball comes near the goal, you're gonna react by trying to kick it out. That's where like some own goals come from, because of that reaction, that instant reaction you have as a defender, forward, whatever. But he misses, and that chance flies by. Now in the 12th minute, I did say that despite the goal, Chelsea just seemed to be more dangerous of the two sides. Leeds pressing, though, is really what kept them in the game. Leeds pressing, they're high press. They threw numbers forward whenever they attacked, but they also didn't just leave numbers forward. They had at least 3 or 4 usually up top. Well, not necessarily up top. They had for sure 2 up top between like Bamford, Kilch, or Harrison, whoever was up with him. And they normally had 2 up top. And what that did is that forced Chelsea to keep numbers back. That prevented us from keeping a press, establishing a press and keeping it going, because we had to pull numbers back. We had to keep numbers back. We couldn't really fully commit. James and Chilwell couldn't get too involved in the game. And honestly, by the 25th minute, I wrote this note and I even like freaking circled it. Our passing was awful. Our passing was just atrocious. It was just not good. We were just so wasteful. It was just bad. It was just really bad to watch. We picked it up eventually, heading towards like last 15-20 minutes of the first half, and we started to pick up our passing, but it was just awful. And that's one of the main reasons why Leeds were really in that game. They were starting to take advantage of what we were giving them. We were just being incredibly wasteful with these passes. I found it really funny though that Leeds offense was really relying on crosses, and this is something that was present throughout the rest of the game. They were heavily relying on the ball that comes in, not too much open field like play. They weren't really relying too much on that. They were relying more so on crosses, which I found really funny because I saw the statistic that Leeds actually have the most open field chances in the Premier League right now. I don't know if that statistic's still up there, but prior to the game, they had the most open field chances, so it's ironic that they relied so heavily on crossing in this game. Obviously, with the most open field chances, Leeds were bound to, get something going. So I think it's ironic, obviously their goal came from open field, but in this game specifically, they relied so heavily on crossing, whereas Chelsea relied on open field play, and they looked more dangerous on open field play, yet Chelsea scored off of crosses and set pieces. So I found that really ironic in this game. Another highlight after I made that note of our passing, 29th minute, Ziyech, before that, I almost forgot. Giroud had his goal. It was a beautiful James cross. Reece James holds it. If you really watch the highlight, you can see Reece James hold his run at about half field, holds it, and it just takes off. Ziyech makes a nice turn back, lays it off for Reece James. Reece James crosses into Giroud. It was a nice acrobatic volley. It wasn't an easy finish for Giroud, but he puts it in nonetheless. He held his run, delayed his run, stayed onside, finished, and equalized 1-1. But unfortunately, Ziyech went down with a hamstring injury and was forced off. Pulisic had to come off. We had to make that early substitution in the 29th minute. And like I said, the hamstring is not... Well, I didn't say that, but the hamstring is something that you shouldn't take lightly. That is it could be a serious injury. That's something you don't take lightly. So if Ziyech needs to stay out for a week, let him stay out for a couple, honestly, because that's not an injury that you want to mess with. Pulisic is the perfect example of that. And Ziyech does have an injury record, not the greatest injury record either. Like he tends to go down to injury quite a bit. So be careful with that injury is what I'm saying. Don't try to push him. Don't try to let him in quickly just because he's, it seems like he's okay. Give him that extra time, give him an extra game maybe off to fully recover, because I'd rather have him back 100% than have him back 90 even. So hamstring injury for Ziyech, he has to come off. You have to make that early substitution. But for me, Leeds honestly could have had a lot more chances in this game, but they were just kind of complicating it for themselves in the back. In particular, like I mentioned in the prediction video, their defense is their weakest part of their team, and it was prevalent in this game. Their defense struggled. They more so were just making it really complicated for themselves, like just crazy passes, bad layoffs. It was just they would just switch off. And fortunately for them, Chelsea couldn't take advantage. There was like 3 different opportunities where Leeds just gave the ball up in their final third, like right on the box, right on the 18, and Chelsea just couldn't take advantage. But Leeds were basically shooting themselves in the foot in this game. But like I mentioned, amazingly entertaining first half. It was a really good first half. Amazing. It was just a really entertaining first half. It was just back and forth. They were clashing. They're both electric teams, so it's very entertaining to watch them play. Leeds, with their press, they were keeping us at bay. I will say though that came back to bite them later on in like the final 20 minutes or so. But we'll get to the second half in a second. I did call the early goal, and I called the 1-1 score out at the half. So I'm a genius. No, but moving into the second half, Leeds it felt like they might just shoot themselves in the foot. That's kind of what it felt like it might become. It kind of felt like that's why Chelsea would walk away with, more than just a point or losing in that game, was that Leeds was going to shoot themselves in the foot and that Chelsea were going to take advantage. Obviously, like I mentioned, in the first half, they had a couple golden opportunities. Chelsea had a couple golden opportunities because Leeds were really sluggish in the back, but Chelsea couldn't take advantage. In the second, they didn't really do that either, but that's just immediately Liverpool. Leeds were giving up the ball and allowing us to get some opportunities, but we really couldn't take advantage. In the first half, the Leeds did kind of pull their press back. That could have been due to fatigue. Like I said, it kind of came back to bite them in the last 20 minutes or so. But they did pull their press back a bit. They eased up a bit, which allowed Chelsea to start growing into the game. It was still quite back and forth. They did hit a bit of a dry spell up until about the 57th minute. It wasn't the most entertaining start to the half. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the most entertaining. It didn't really compare to the first half. In the first 15 minutes or so, it wasn't the most exciting. But in the 57th minute, Rafinha had 2 shots. He took a shot, and it was saved, it was blocked, and then he tries it again, shoots it over the bar. And then immediately, 3 minutes later, well, not necessarily immediately, but 3 minutes later, Werner has a very similar situation where he takes a shot, saved, takes a shot again, and then it falls to Mount, and then he takes a shot and it's blocked by the defender, and that's when the game picked up again, and we were right back where we were in the first half. Like I said, 60th minute, Meslier, the Leeds goalkeeper, had a double save over Werner. Chelsea had a ton of momentum though, heading into the 60th minute, and it paid off with a goal in the 61st minute. Zuma was just uncovered in their box off a corner. Mason Mount puts it in. Zuma heads it home. Kurt Zuma's been our main man on set pieces so far this season. He's been doing really well, and he was left unmarked, and he's gonna score that 100% of the time. Leeds, I haven't really mentioned this. Leeds were really struggling with our crosses, with our set pieces. The amount of times, I kid you, the amount of times Giroud was free with a header was just incredible. Like he was free. Just every time we put in the corner, we were the first to it. Every time we put in the cross, most of the time Giroud was there. So we could have easily scored a lot more off of set pieces because Leeds just weren't prepared, I guess, to handle us. They were very poor on our crosses and our set pieces. They really couldn't handle it, and eventually it did pay off. Obviously, we had the cross in the first half from James to Giroud, and here on the corner from Mount to Zuma, and we go up 2-1. It wasn't the most comfortable lead. Leeds did start to find some opportunities going forward. However, we did get a ton of momentum, and we started to just look a lot sharper than Leeds. Like I mentioned, with the high press Leeds were trying to play in the first half, it cost a lot of fatigue, and you could see they were starting to get sluggish. They were starting to slow down, and they really couldn't respond as well as they might have liked because they were just a little too slow on the ball. It was just like a fraction too slow on the ball. Whenever it was just a 50-50, they were just a fraction too slow, and Chelsea were able to recover every single time, and we were just free flowing on the attack. And honestly, that was my biggest question going into the second half: is can Leeds keep up that press? And the answer was no. They couldn't keep up the press, and it cost them. In the end, they couldn't keep up. And Giroud came off after an amazing performance, got a standing ovation from the 2,000 fans at the bridge, and it was a really great performance. He was a constant threat. He forced Leeds to just throw numbers on him, but it didn't matter. He was just free. Like I mentioned, every cross, every corner, he was free. He was free header. And unfortunately, he only got one, but definitely probably could have gone more. But yeah, Chelsea shifted into 5th gear and just took off. We took off. Leeds they still weren't completely out, but it didn't really feel like they were going to score. They didn't feel as dangerous as they did in the first half. They had some chances going forward, but they really didn't feel as dangerous as they did in the first half. They just we were able to see out the game for the most part, but then we were able to add on to the lead in the 93rd minute. Timo Werner makes an excellent run down the right side of the field and lays it off for Pulisic, who puts it home in front of an open goal, crossed in. Another cross, by the way. So 93rd minute makes it 3-1, and last 30 seconds we were just to see out very comfortably, and we're on a roll. We're on a roll. That's our 16th straight without losing since we lost to, I think it was either Spurs or Liverpool. I think it was Spurs. Since we lost to Spurs in the Carabao Cup, we have not lost in every competition. I think we're 8 for 9. No, I think we're 9 games unbeaten. 8 games unbeaten in the Premier League now. Eight games unbeaten. Since the Liverpool loss, we were 8 games unbeaten in the Premier League. So we are on a roll. An excellent performance against a really difficult side. Leeds are an incredibly difficult side, and we showed up. We showed up, and we did really well to just not necessarily keep Leeds at bay, but at least combat and be, with Leeds playing at this high attacking level, we had to play at a higher attacking level, and we did. And I think we performed incredibly well today. To get into my couple interesting facts for this game, we have yet to lose when we've led in a game this season. That is important, especially because of our defense. We go up and we're able to see out a game. That is huge. You compare our defense to earlier in the season and last season, and we weren't capable of really seeing out games. But the fact that we've not lost a single game where we've led this season, I think that's really impressive, and it goes to show how far our defense has come. Another thing I find really interesting, Lampard and Jack Harrison played for Leeds in this game. Obviously, Lampard's the manager. They played together at New York City FC in the MLS. I always forget, honestly, that Lampard was even with New York City in the MLS. He finished his career there. I always forget about that. But I find that really, really interesting that the two of them played together on the same team. One's managing, one's still playing. You see that here and there. You see that quite a bit. Like Zidane and players like that. But it's really interesting to see. They even were talking after the game, and I thought that was really cool. Nice, interesting fact. But like I said, a really impressive win from Chelsea today to keep Leeds at bay, and bars. We did really well to come away with all 3 points in this game. But with all that being said, thank you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Go check out the socials in the description. My Instagram is @BlueHermit_. My Twitter is @BlueHermit1. While you're down there, let me know your thoughts on the game. And I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye.